Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm your host, Louis Ezekiel. Joining me tonight, my pal and yours, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how are you doing on this fine Thursday evening?
Hey, Louis. I'm doing good. I am trying to hold it together because my team is not doing as good as me in the Cookupful, but that's okay because we can't win every week and we'll make it work. Hopefully they'll turn it around for the weekend, though. That's my positive vibes.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'm looking forward to a highlight moment potentially this weekend because if Kirill Kaprizov comes off IR on Saturday, as some folks think that he might, then it'll be the first time this season that I do not have two draft picks on IR. So that would be exciting. Been, obviously struggling a lot with injuries this season. So that would be a big moment for me to get my number one draft pick back in here for this kind of obnoxious 2-week day-to-day injury he's been dealing with. But it could be worse. For instance, I could have drafted this first player that we're going to talk about who has just had kind of a disastrous season here. Do you want to start us off with the latest news of sad stories in the crease?
Yes. Every time we talk on a Thursday, Louis, I lose a goalie. And this week I am losing Tristan Jarry in one of my leagues. It wasn't someone I was holding on to, so nobody needs to feel that bad for me. But last week we talked and I was losing Vejmelka's starts. So I think we're cursed on Thursdays and we have to stop or I'll run out of goalies. But Tristan Jarry did clear waivers today. He hasn't been playing great. And full transparency, the league I did have him in was a league with a minimum goalie start, so I was just trying to get starts. And he was good for that. But his save percentage, not so good, a .886 on the year. He went 8-4 on the year. It wasn't looking good. So they're bringing up Joel, I'm saying it wrong, sorry, it is a European pronunciation, Blomqvist. He's been brought back up. He's played 8 NHL games already this year, going 3-5-0, and he has a .904 save percentage. So I do think that they're ready to kind of put him in and see what's going to happen. He'll be backing up Nedeljkovic, of course, who is their starter and is back from injury. So it is exciting to be a Pittsburgh fan, I guess, right now, but also really sad if you're a Jarry fan.
Yeah, and I imagine, it's unfortunate that, you've got these generational players on your team right now, but you kind of can't get it done on the defensive end, especially in the crease. So, yeah, it's tough. But, it seems like they've kind of reached the end of their willingness to stick things out with Jarry. I thought it was interesting that Dubas was saying, he's not facing any injury problems of any kind right now, just really trying to put the shine on there or put the lipstick on the pig, so to speak. Maybe someone would take that big contract off his hands in waivers. Obviously, that's not how it happened. And I think Ryan said this, Ryan Downey, who co-hosts with us with some frequency, it's not a bad gig to sit in Wilkes-Barre and make $5 million and, jump in occasionally for the Penguins down there. There are certainly worse fates that you could have. So, yes, I feel bad for him, but, he's got a pretty good setup for the time being. You did mention Vejmelka, and I know this wasn't on our list here, but it is interesting. We were worried about, losing starts with Ingram coming back, but so far it has been Vejmelka getting the majority of the starts here. So hopefully you did hold on to him. He did have a pretty rough outing after our show, which I thought for a bit kind of confirmed things for us that he would be losing some starts, but he's been doing all right. So good on him. Good on Vejmelka for hanging in there and, maintaining his degree of effectiveness. Another guy that we talked about last Thursday was Gustafsson, who seems to continue to be struggling. Obviously, again, they've had that avalanche of injuries on the blue line, but he's had some rather rough outings lately as well. a lot of the shine coming off that apple after, a real Vezina style start. So, just a couple things to keep in mind in the world of goalies here. Another guy that we wanted to talk about headlines wise, this is kind of a hot streak, but it's been a little bigger than that, I think. And what we've really seen is Logan Cooley really starting to level up for Utah. He has been getting really good deployment for about the past month and a half now. So he's on a 20-game streak of having majority power play time. During those 20 games, 19 points, including 10 on the power play, 41 shots. And if you're in a league that counts face-offs, he's actually had pretty decent face-off numbers for a young guy. So 45% wins, and he's averaging over 5 face-off wins a game over the course of that 20-game period. So if you've got that as a category in one of your leagues, that's a nice added bonus for Cooley. And he's centering Schmaltz and Keller right now. And I got to say, I know Barrett Hayton got in on an assist here on Thursday evening, but definitely seeing, goals coming from Cooley, Schmaltz, and Keller combined. I think, you get a little more confidence. You get a little more, top line, of a feel when you've got Cooley up there instead of Hayton, who I think has underperformed quite a lot and has not been very exciting. So really great for Cooley. If you held on to him, awesome. I know a lot of people were, even I was on the fence about Schmaltz a little bit. I knew that he was not, scoring as much as he should have been early in the season, and he's catching up there quite a bit. But yeah, he's really benefited. And shout out to Elon, who was able to add Schmaltz just this week, which sort of triggered this whole discussion and got us investigating Cooley's recent success. Talking about other line shakeups here, why don't you take us to Tampa Bay, where we debuted some new power play units and have actually seen them produce a little bit here.
Exactly. It looks like we're seeing a bit of a shakeup in Tampa. I'm not sure how long it will last, but the recent look is we're seeing Radish, Point, Kucherov, KP, and Gensel out there together. Seems to be working, but will it last is my question. And I just don't know. I feel like there's a lot going on over in Tampa right now. The guys were talking about it on Tuesday with Point being sat. There's a lot going on there, and maybe some questions about what happened there are coming to play with these power play changes. I'm not jumping on this one. I know some people were getting excited about the shakeup, but for me, I think it's just a moment in time change up. I don't think we're going to see lasting change. I don't know if you disagree with me, Lewis.
No, I mean, I think what you're saying there does make a lot of sense. I don't think that these are going to last all that long. But I found myself in a position where I had an empty defensive slot. I was just dying to dump Roslovic, who is on a 8-game pointless streak, starting right after I picked him up when he had 7 points in 5 games before that. So I couldn't have been happier to jettison Roslovic. And I picked up Darren Radish because he was on that top power play, and sure enough, he did get himself a power play assist. I don't, have any illusions about it lasting all that long. But, like I said, I'm hoping that we see Kaprizov come back on Saturday, which means I'm going to lose that streaming spot anyway. So I'm just trying to make the best I can out of it in the short term. And given that they were up against Anaheim, I thought it seemed like, a good way to potentially put some easy points on my scoreboard. I think it is interesting just because what we're seeing here is an opportunity for some of these guys to get exposure to players that they don't normally see. The usual top power play, Point, Gensel, Hagel, Kucherov, Hedman, you're not going to get your hands on any of those players. It's not like you can stream into the top power play. So even though, I think the power plays, whatever you want to call them, 1A, 1B, may not be at their usual full strength, the fact that you are able to get a piece of them when usually you can't is kind of exciting. And it'll be interesting to see how they stay together. They do have 2 power play goals. Each unit does have a power play goal here on Thursday, but they're also tied 3-3 with the Ducks. So I could see them, especially if, heaven forbid, they go on to lose this game, I could see it potentially being a catalyst for changing things up again. next up, another power play item here. Actually, we've got two more power play items to talk about to wrap up our headlines here. So I'll take Drysdale. You can take Mercer. So we are seeing Jamie Drysdale cashing in a little bit on power play 1. He did get a mention on the show on Sunday and has been quite productive. I added him Sunday because I had an open slot and I was interested in the 4-game schedule. And while he hasn't been able to produce anything here on Thursday, over his last 3 games, he does have 3 assists and a goal to go with 4 shots and a handful of blocks as well. And obviously, Thursday night results pending. That's a pretty decent power play. I think I said, he's not going to play Anaheim every night, so they're not going to have as many goals as he got in that 1 goal, 1 assist game. But I think that's a good spot to be in for as long as he can hold it. Obviously, there's Cam York there. Sanheim has moonlighted in that spot. I think even Ristolainen maybe has played there a little bit. So they're not clearly set on any particular guy, even though Drysdale's been there for a little bit. So he seems the most settled in that spot. I could definitely see it changing. The problem is, of course, he has a little bit of empty calories if he's not scoring like some of the other guys that we'll discuss, which is not great for a defenseman. It kind of depends on your strategy. I do think he's a high upside guy if you're chasing points, but he could be concerning if you're looking for, kind of consistent production where he's filling out the stat sheet a little bit. That's not necessarily what Drysdale is going to give you. But nice to see him cashing in on that power play deployment so far, even though he's not been able to do it here on Thursday. Any thoughts on Drysdale, or do you want to take us over to Dawson Mercer?
You know what, Lewis, I think you've captured really what's going on there really well. There's not really a lot I can add except to say the same thing you're saying, which is this is a power play that has changed a couple of times this year already. And you're going to hear us say that anytime we talk about a power play, I think, because most teams are shifting and putting the people that they think can perform in when they can. So you really have to watch for those practice lines and see what's going on. So I'm just going to jump us right into New Jersey, where we are talking about Dawson Mercer, who's up on power play 1 as well. He's up there while Nason's out. And so this begs the question of, is this interesting or is it not? And I think it was interesting if you were able to grab him today, because Nason's out with an illness. He's missing this road game, but I don't know how long he'll be out. If it truly is just an illness and this isn't an injury cover-up illness, I think he's back right away and this isn't a long-lasting fit, but it could be. So I'm interested in the grab if it sticks, but I don't think it's going to stick long-term. And with Mercer, he's had just 2 points in his last 9 games. So he's really got to show up if he wants to try to take this spot. And he's not shooting a ton right now. I think it was fewer than 2 shots per game in the last little bit. It's not looking great for me, but it is exciting if you jump on the bandwagon at the right time.
Yeah, I see your point definitely about, who knows how long this illness is going to be. I guess I'm still a little shook because Patrick Laine was dealing with an illness that seemed to last forever, that ultimately kept him out over the course of 4 games before he roared back with a goal in each of his first 2 games since. I'm not, Mercer, I think, is up there with Braden Schenn with players that I've added and dropped lots of times throughout the course of this season so far. He will go off on occasion, but it's so streaky and so spotty. I think I'm starting to learn to stay away. I don't love the lack of shooting. He doesn't seem to be super involved in the play. I think you can pass on this guy, even though he is being put in that good position. I might rather, this was someone that I've been thinking about, and he did get brought up at least on the Sunday show. If you're going to go for a guy who is not producing a ton, but is playing with great deployment, I'd rather have Matt Coronado in Calgary, who's getting some, to the extent that there is a line 1 in Calgary, I think he's on it, and is getting that top power play time. And he's been producing more. So I'd rather have Coronado than Mercer, even with Mercer in this nice situation, albeit temporarily. All right, we are going to take a quick break here. When we get back on the other side, we've got some hot and cold streaks to discuss, as well as a couple injuries and outjuries. You're listening to Short Shifts.
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are! Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is the key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet TDs. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Or, hey, maybe you're into hockey. I'm taking a look now at the different things you can bet on in the NHL. They got a lot of stuff here. You can bet on all the awards. I like looking at the awards. They even have, you could bet on who's going to be the #1 pick in the upcoming NHL draft. I'm seeing it's basically, you could either bet on James Higgins, who's right now -155. Of course, odds are subject to change. Then there's the field, which is positive odds. So obviously they have their sense of who they think is going to go first. But if you disagree, then maybe that's something that you can pursue. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So you could download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use code THPN, that's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
Welcome back to Short Shifts. All right, let's jump into an injury and an outree over in Toronto. The injury, a pretty significant one, maybe the kind that makes things worse for everyone involved, but I'm interested in your opinion because I do think there's at least one guy who's seeing a little bit of a deployment boost. But John Tavares is on IR, listed as week to week. They called up Fraser Minton, but he did not play. And so we've got Domi and McMahon at even strength with Nylander. And we also saw McMahon added to a 5-forward power play that the Leafs were running. I will admit I have not checked back in and seen if that's still how things are going. They did get a power play goal from Austin Matthews. Do you have any interest in McMahon in this setup with Tavares out for a while? And would you be willing to rank McMahon with the other two new star turns on power play one that we've talked about with Mercer? And then we compared him to Coronado. I guess that's not a new power play one, but yeah, what are your thoughts here?
So I'm not that interested in McMahon. I also took a little bit of a deep dive into this one just to see what was going on, what might be interesting over in Toronto with this, because I wanted to see, is there something I could cash in on? Because that's what we're all thinking when we hear about a guy who gets injured in a practice, because maybe other people haven't heard or seen it. You might be able to jump early, right? And I just wasn't that interested. He's had some really good games, but he's lacking that consistency. So you're really hoping that if you're streaming him in for a back-to-back or anything, that it's going to be one of those highlight times. But I just don't feel like that's fully there for me to say, pick him up and hold him for 2 or 3 weeks while Tavares is out. I just don't think it's there. I would take him for a short stream, but not a long stream.
Yeah, I think I would rank them Coronado at the top. I would put McMahon next, and I would have Mercer down at the bottom. I do think Mercer is a skilled guy, but I just don't have a lot of faith in him. So that's how I would put them if I was making that choice.
I did not rank them for you. My apologies, but I completely agree. I've streamed in Coronado a few times this year, and even being an Edmonton Oilers fan, I can say he's doing pretty good down there in Calgary. So,
yeah, nice. Just one other outree that we want to discuss here for the Leafs. They did see Jake McCabe make his return here on Thursday, and he did get in on that second Austin Matthews goal. Not great for me because Matthews is the top pick of my opponent here, but you know, some people get to play with their top picks, and other people's top picks are wasting away on the bench. So yeah, you live with that. But nice for McCabe to get in on that. I wouldn't expect a ton more of that. You know, this isn't somebody that you add for a ton of scoring, but if you are in a Periffs league, he's doing his usual thing. Hits and blocks, maybe a shot or two per game, getting some shorthanded time. Probably nice for. We've been talking about all these injuries to defensemen in Minnesota. You got to imagine McCabe coming back is going to be nice for Wohl or whoever's starting for the Leafs in goal. So that's a nice one to have there at least, but not something I would be rushing out to grab, especially if there's not going to be any defensemen out on that top power play. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense outside of bangers leagues, or if you're looking for kind of some consistent grinder stats. One other injury of note to point out, I know this was mentioned on Tuesday's show, but just that he went out. But give us the latest on Roope Hintz here, and an unfortunately familiar situation.
Yeah, he took a hit from Austin Matthews, so we could almost say this is still a bit of a Toronto discussion, but not quite. But he did take that hit in the first period on Tuesday. He left the game after trying to shake it off and return, but they are saying he's day-to-day. This is a pretty big hit, I would say, to the Stars right now. They're still without Mason Marchment. They're still without Tyler Seguin, both who are still recovering from their individual surgeries. He's leading the Stars right now with 19 goals. He's had 27 points in 42 games before this injury. So it is a bit of a hit to the Dallas team. I took a look, and it looks like Wyatt Johnston is expected to be the center in the top line with him out. So he'll be playing with Robertson and Dadonov. This is pretty exciting, but you're probably not going to be able to pick up on Johnston. He's 92% owned on Yahoo and 100% owned in the Cacuftle. So those Cacuftle managers are on it. They knew what this was going to look like. He is not available there anymore. But I truly really like Johnston. I thought I might be a little bit high on him going into this season, and I unfortunately didn't get him in any of my drafts. But looking at how he's been doing, it's been pretty good, and I would be excited to have him on my team, especially if this is going to be a more of a week or so day-to-day injury rather than a 1 or 2 game injury. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought is I'm having flashbacks to a couple years ago when Hintz was just constantly day-to-day and a game time decision. And, because it's that central time, like you're having to make decisions before we didn't find out whether he's going to play or not. It was a very stressful time. I did not very much enjoy being a Hintz owner during that bit. He's played great. So that obviously is really good news. We like to see that. But yeah, I just hope it doesn't start another one of those patterns. But yeah, I mean, Johnston moving up is similar, I think, in a lot of ways to Fantilli moving up, except that Dallas is, or at least has been able to spread the scoring around a little more. But these injuries are starting to take a toll, as you said. That top 6 is now more of like a top 4. And well, that's not enough credit for what Stankoven has been able to do stepping in. So I do apologize for that, but it hasn't been the same degree of relentless wave after wave depth scoring that we saw from Dallas early on. Or really, actually, I feel like early on it was that second line that really was carrying the play while they waited for the top line to catch up a little bit. So all of this is kind of a long-winded way to say, Johnston not nearly as available, but it's the same kind of no-brainer that I think adding Fantilli was when Monahan went out that we talked about. So good for folks who may have been able to jump on that or who are just enjoying the benefit of his improved position. Let's move into some hot and cold streaks. And for my first hot streak, I've pretty much got a whole team's power plays, both first and second units. The Red Wings have just been going nuts on the power play. They just put the finishing touches on a 5-2 beatdown of Florida. A little, I'm a bit disappointed here because I am up against a manager who is starting Talbot, who had an outstanding game. Yeah, the Red Wings power play, both units, has just been absolutely marvelous over the last 10 games. Dmitry Filipovich of the PDO cast noted on Twitter, the Red Wings have now scored more power play goals in their past 9.5, now 10 games, 17, than the Ducks, who have 16, the Kings with 15, and the Islanders with 12 have scored all season. I don't promise those numbers are completely up to date with Thursday's results, but the point stands. The Red Wings power play has been absolutely insane. I only looked at the top power play forwards, but over the last 10 games with Thursday, I think these Thursday numbers are accurate because I don't think there were any more power plays after this. But Kane over the last 10 games has 9 power play points. Raymond has 8. DeBrincat has 7. And Larkin had 5. So, they are just absolutely burning things down. Even the second unit has been very successful. And, this was going to be, kind of a hot or cold, real or pretend bit on this guy. But we can transfer right over into talking about Erik Gustafsson, who is manning that second power play unit. 4 power plays in the last 10 games. While that power play has been so hot, 5 points total in the last 4, 8 points in the last 10 games. It certainly seems like it could be overachievement here, right? But I'm curious as to what you think about this. Is Erik Gustafsson real or pretend? Even if he's not going to be 8 points every 10 games, is he a guy who can be consistent? Is he someone who deserves a roster spot? Or is this all just an illusion?
This one is a little bit interesting for me because you're right. His numbers are very intriguing for the last little bit. But when you start to look at, are other people rostering him? The answer is a resounding not really. 31% of Cacuftle managers have rostered him. And I like to think that the Cacuftle managers are on it. They're active. They kind of are following these trends. And right now, that's a sign to me that maybe it's not going to last. He's probably good for a stream. I know of a few people who streamed him in this week. So could you take a flyer on him right now? Yes. But should you be expecting him to replace somebody on your roster? No. I feel like Detroit's got an okay schedule going forward, but it's not great either. They are going to play Saturday and Sunday still this week. And then next week, they've got all busy days. So if you can't fit him in, I wouldn't be forcing it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So, I dove in a little bit too. And I'm also inclined to say illusionary here. Gustafsson has 2 goals on 12 shots in the last 10 games. He just doesn't hit or block much, even less maybe than, someone like, say, Jamie Drysdale, who we talked about previously. I have a hard time believing it. He does seem to be pretty well integrated into that second power play unit. Like the puck is moving through him, and we have seen him have some periods of success on the power play. I think in New York, when Adam Fox went down, I think we had a period where Gustafsson was really exciting. But he's on second power play. Yeah, he's moving the puck around and is definitely participating. So I don't mind that higher than usual points percentage on the power play, but I can't see either power play 2 remaining as hot as it has been. And when Gustafsson is not scoring for you, he's just not doing a whole lot else. But I am someone who jumped on Darren Radish when he was, in a position for success. So I don't mind, a limited upside shot on D, especially again, if you're chasing points. I think that's a smart move. But, I think once power play 2 starts to cool down, or if they're getting less, if we see kind of a greater imbalance between power play 1 and power play 2 time, we are going to see Gustafsson cool off. I think it's pretty inevitable. So he might keep it up for a little while. Obviously a great night, 5 goals against Florida here for the Red Wings, but I wouldn't be leaping all over Gustafsson. And if you did pick him up, maybe see if you can flip him for someone that you like a little better, who might be in a spot for greater sustainability.
Absolutely. He's just not taking a lot of shots, and those peripherals just aren't there to be sustainable if he's not getting in on those assists. It's great to be in on those assists, but I want to see a little bit more sustainability, because if all of a sudden you're not part of a play that's working really well, you're going to lose that spot really fast. So like you said, maybe you can flip them, maybe you hold them for a couple of games this weekend, but just really tough to be a really let's buy now for me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump into a hot and a cold streak on the same team here. I'm going to start with the one that I am rostering on the hot streak, and you can talk about the one that you're rostering on the cold streak, although they did just combine for a power play goal. But yeah, Brayden Schenn is having a nice little run here. 2 goals on Thursday night brings him up to 5 goals and 4 assists over the past 9 games. Still not shooting probably as much as you would like to see. Line 2, power play 1, center type. But he'll get you those hits, that you like to see. So if you're in a multi-cat league, he could really be showing valuable production, especially if you have power play points as a separate category. And obviously you got the hits in there as well. He'll win you some faceoffs. All of that seems very nice for Schenn. Like I said before, he's been a guy who's been in and out of my roster quite a lot, but I think he has earned a spot to stay here for a little while. With this run and with the types of players that he is lined up with, anybody who is playing with Jordan Kyrou, I know that Kyrou hasn't been, reaching the heights of what he's done previously, but I really like him, and I want the guy who's playing alongside him consistently. So a nice little run for Schenn here. Very pleased with the 2 goals against Calgary so far, and we still got a period to go. So who knows? It could change a little bit more, but. We've also got a guy on a bit of a cold streak there. So let's hear it, Elizabeth. Who are you dragging along here?
I have been holding on to Jake Neighbours literally since we drafted. I can't believe I'm saying that because so many people have told me I need to drop him. He's gone through a couple of cold slumps this year that probably were drop worthy, but I was ending up with injuries and stuff. So I kept him. And honestly, today I saw he was questionable for the game and that I was able to stick him in an IR slot. And I was so relieved. And I feel like that should have been my sign that maybe I am keeping him a little too much because I put him in that IR slot so fast. And that is where he still is for his point today. But he's been pointless in his last 3 games. And sitting there looking at the lineup, there's Dylan Holloway just waiting to take over, who I have been saying multiple times this year is looking so good. I've streamed him in a while ago and I haven't dropped him yet because I like what's happening there. He hasn't had all great games. He does still go through a little bit of a drop, but he is averaging 5 to 6 couple points a night when you look at longer terms, like 2 weeks to a month averages. But Jake Neighbours isn't, and I'm just having so much trouble dropping him. And I know I'm not the only one because 59% of our couple managers are with me holding on to him. So what is going on with us, Lewis? Why are we all holding on to him?
I mean, it's a top 6 that moves around quite a lot, but Neighbours has pretty consistently been a part of it. He's been, kind of a Cy Young guy who's going to score a lot of goals, even if he's not dishing very much. But, you'd like to maybe have some of those assists. And again, he got one on the power play here on that Schenn goal, but it's not kind of, typically you'd expect it to go the other way. And, when he's not scoring for you, again, he's not doing very much. And, you brought up Holloway, right from the start, it seemed that he had his coach's attention after the coaching change. And I think has maybe cemented himself in a position where he is going to be, pretty successful. So I'm with you. I certainly would have Neighbours below Holloway in terms of guys that I'm looking to jettison. And yeah, I don't blame you for wanting to leave him on IR. I think people keep hoping that things are going to get better, but remember, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're hanging on too long and you're missing out on other valuable opportunities. So that's what I have to say there. And, if you were able to swap Neighbours out and Schenn in, I'd do that in a heartbeat. I don't know how widely available that opportunity is, but, a lot of the guys that we talked about here today, I like over Neighbours while he's not finding his groove and finding that production. But, we know he can go on a really, really hot streak. He did it last season on several occasions. So, keep him on your watch list, even if you end up letting him go, would be my advice. Watch for that next moment there.
All right. Up next, we've got on our hot streak, Levi Meralainen. He is starting to get a lot of starts out in Ottawa. And as we know, we've got Ullmark out. He's been out since December 22nd. We've got Forsberg out. And then they also brought in Matt Sogaard. So he is taking over here in Ottawa. While we've got these injuries, I think we all thought it was going to be Matt Sogaard getting a lot of the starts, but that has not been the case. He's played 7 games already this year up in the NHL. He's got a .925 save percentage, and most exciting to anybody like me who jumped on this bandwagon is he's got a 1.99 goals against average. So he is not letting a lot through that net. And I think this is really exciting for a lot of us who don't roster goalies long-term or are jumping in and out with goalies, because you can jump on this bandwagon while he's hot and you're not going to feel bad later because there's someone coming in off an injury going to replace him. So I like this. He's 86% rostered in the Cacuffle. So I'm not the only one jumping on this Meralainen bandwagon. And we don't know when Allmark's returning. So I feel like this is a good pickup. If he's still available to you, I would definitely take a look. He's had some really good, strong games, good cacuffle points. They've got a decent schedule going forward. There's a back-to-back this weekend. You're guaranteed to get one of those games. And there's 4 games next week. So definitely someone that I would be looking at. As I said, I've already picked him up. So I'm on the bandwagon fully. Lewis, will you be joining me?
Oh, I wish I could have. So this is fun. We were starting to talk about him in the chat, and I went to kind of check him out. I believe the first chat message about him came through at about 11:09, and so I was pretty quick to jump on it and take a look there. And by 11:11, he was picked up. So very, very quick hands in my division. So I was not able to get a piece. But yeah, I love a goalie who's able to go on a hot streak in the short term. Even with the loss today, I mean, it's a 1-0 loss to Washington, giving up an Alex Ovechkin goal. By the way, Ovechkin can now add another goalie to his list, the huge list of goalies against whom he has scored. So big congrats to the Grey Wolf there. Love to see it. Obviously, as someone who has been a big Ovi fan the last couple seasons in fantasy, it's been really nice to see. So a very interesting potential character to jump in on, and I hope he keeps finding success. But as always with some of these flash in the pan guys, if eventually we do start to see the main goaltender making the bigger money start to take over more starts, think about maybe streaming him out and then streaming him back in when you have that opportunity. We are at the end of a long shift here, but we do want to bring up just one more guy. I know he's been getting mentioned across all the shows, but I love when a good Michigan boy is having a ton of success. So I just want to mention Adam Fantilli again, just playing out of his mind. Started even before Monahan was injured, but when he went down, I jumped right in the chat, and it wasn't during a podcast, but I was saying in the short shifts chat, pause the pod, go grab Fantilli. With Monahan out, 4 goals, 4 assists, 18 shots in the last 16 games and 2 periods. That's when I stopped updating the scores on this card. So just having great success playing with Marchenko and Voronkov. An obvious add. And if he is available in your league still on this crazy hot streak, I would at least have him until Monahan returns. And even then, I think I would hang on and see what he does and how he is deployed when Monahan makes his return. I don't think there's any huge reason to rush Monahan back from this wrist injury. This is I'm not saying anything revolutionary here. He's playing great. He's getting all the deployment in the world. Obviously, we're seeing Columbus score much better than we sort of expected them to, especially after, obviously, the tragic news this summer. So very happy for them, about as happy as I've ever been for a group of athletes from the city of Columbus, Ohio. I think I can say that pretty safely. Love to see Michigan players succeeding and excelling in the Buckeye State. All right. Well, Elizabeth, this has brought us to the end of what ended up being quite a long shift. I enjoyed it, though. I think we had a lot to talk about it. I hope people don't mind if it lasted through your commute. Listen to it as you walk into the building, just to finish off the last couple minutes there. But thank you all so much for joining us. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us. Always a great time. We're a little goofier, I think, on these Thursday shows. Maybe we'll get back to our regular Tuesday schedule here before too long, before the week has beaten us down a little bit. But yeah, always a great time. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed the show, folks, please consider joining the Keeping Karlsson Patreon group, keepingkarlsson.com/patron. Super supporters receive ad-free episodes, and you can interact with Brian, Elon, the whole Short Shifts crew, and hundreds of other talented fantasy managers on our active Discord server. I don't know about your allied chat, but we've had a bunch of new additions as new managers have taken over some defunct teams. And that also can put you on in a favorable position when we are seeding teams in the new tiers for next season. So if you want to jump in and take over a team, you can get that priority placement. We always have some attrition in the upper tiers, so it gives you a chance to jump up a tier even in your first season in the Cupful. Please check out GameDayTweets.com. Used it a ton today to get all the best information from Twitter without actually having to go on Twitter, including team by team and searchable tweets by player name. I was using that a ton today to get Tavares information, especially. Visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach, and until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.
This is a PSA, or public sock announcement. Experts have declared Bombas socks as the best way to warm up chilly feet. These pairs are super cushy, soft, and designed for maximum coziness. Plus, for every pair purchased, another pair will be donated, so someone in need of essential clothing can stay warm this winter. Go to bombas.com/listen and use code LISTEN for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/listen and use code LISTEN at checkout.